All right, welcome back to the Fox Den. I am sitting down today with Kevin Silver. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Nathan, and pleasure to be here.
Let's jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do for a living?
Sure, absolutely. My background is what we call industrial and organizational psychology, which is an absolute mouthful, and people don't like it in the industry because it's confusing. So, short form, we refer to it as IO psychology, which essentially focuses on the people strategy and people or human capital in business settings to really optimize a business, both on the leadership side and on the structure side, to help businesses grow and become optimized.
And what's the name of the company that you were working for? Is this something that you founded?
Yeah, so it's my own company. It's called Northmark Talent. I founded it almost 10 years ago. I've been in the industry for about that long, and I'm currently working as an individual consultant.
And did you go through the high tech program yourself?
No, I did not go through that program. I'm a little bit familiar with it. I've heard great things about it, but no, I've been creating and going on my own, I would say, rather unique journey since day one.
And can you give me an example of a typical day for you? Are you hybrid or are you in an office? And what does your work actually look like on the ground?
Yeah, great question. Really, it changes almost on the daily. So I am 100% remote. This is my home office, beautiful background behind me.
Beautiful.
Uh, a lot of the clients that I work with are remote as well because they're not always local. So I do cross border in the States as well. But some clients I do work on site. I enjoy it because it does give a little bit of a change to my day. So I don't have the same schedule every single day. And very often before I go to bed, I look on my calendar to understand what tomorrow looks like. It's always different. But primarily I am remote, sometimes in office with clients, but mainly remote.
And give me an example of what your work actually entails. I think it sounds a little bit complicated. People might not understand. Maybe if you can explain a little simply, like a typical day in the office for you.
Absolutely. And the truth is, really, what I started earlier, with the term industrial and organizational psychology, people in the industry have a very hard time with that because it does create confusion, right? It's very unclear as to what that means. Some people think I work in a factory or in a warehouse because the word industrial is there.
Right.
Some people think that I'm a mental health psychologist because the word psychology is in there. It is confusing. And I actually really think that that's a benefit. I think that's a very big positive for the industry because there is no one black and white answer as to what an industrial psychologist does, right? In a nutshell, keeping it under the same operating umbrella, I work with people to optimize themselves with the goal of growing their business. So primarily, I work with founders and leaders, senior leaders. It always has to start from the top because that's where a lot of the influence comes in an organization. And I start with assessments. So I specialize in psychometric assessments to measure a lot of different pieces of information about an individual for multiple reasons. Number one, because it does allow me to reduce any biases that I may have to keep my observations less subjective and more objective, or what we say is more empirical, right? I want to learn as much as I can about you with concrete evidence so that when we have our conversations, we work on development, we work on looking at your business, I take an empirical lens. It's less of a barrier or less of a challenge for you to accept the things that I'm telling simply because it's not me telling it to you. You've actually given me all this information. I'm now taking it and teasing it apart and applying it back to you in your context. So you've given me information about yourself. right? Measuring your day-to-day personality, those core strengths and weaknesses, measuring what we call the dark side of your personality, right? Who are you when you're under stress? So typically, day to day, we act in a certain specific way, right? We're able to monitor our behavior. We're aware of our surroundings and our interactions with others. However, when those stress levels start to raise and this stress really kicks in, I don't necessarily care so much anymore. I'm not prioritizing how you think I'm showing up. I need to problem solve right now. And that's where the dark side of our personality comes out, right? Sometimes you hear about people yelling, you hear about people being manipulative, you hear about people closing in and going into their shell and whatnot. It's very important to know how you act and who you are in those situations. And that's another piece of information that I'll gather from you, right? And the third core piece is, people throw around the word culture, work culture. I don't take the fluffy approach to culture. I take the empirical approach. I'll actually measure what you find important, what your values and preferences are. Okay. So I'll measure all of that information. I'll then sit down with you as a founder, as a business owner, as a leader, and we'll spend a couple sessions or a couple months going through it so that you fully, really, really, truly understand what these insights are and who you are. And I call this a diagnostic phase, right? Let's diagnose who you are as a person as a step one. Then we start to expand this broader. We may look at your partners. We may look at other leaders in the organization. We may look at other teams in the organization, right? I'll measure that as well. And then I'll start to put all this data together, right? So coming up with reports where you as a team will now understand who you are and what's holding you back, right? You're having contention, for example. Well, why is that contention taking place? Usually it's a discrepancy in personalities, right? You might be a micromanager. You might be very, very prudent or detail oriented. The people that you work with might be a lot more flexible. Each of you has a strength at that side, but naturally you're going to have contention if it's not managed and dealt with, right? So gathering all this information, all this data will allow me and help you eventually understand. Let's look at yourself and your people and your business through data, just like you would look at anything else, right? Prior to purchases, you're looking at your P&L, you're looking at your finances. And, when it comes to dollars and cents, of course, it's more black and white, and that's how you make decisions. What I come in and try to explain to people in these businesses is you can also look at yourself and your people that way. Don't just rely on your raw emotions, right? If you're having a bad day, you wake up for whatever reason, well, guess what? As a leader, you are going to influence the rest of your business that day. And if you are coming in a bad mood, or you're just for whatever reason not performing, people are not going to perform up to par either, because in a small to mid-sized business, every person carries a big weight in the organization, regardless of their title, right? If it's a 30-person business, well, one person coming in and having a rough day or not understanding who they are as a leader really has a consequence to their business, right? So that's my goal. That's really what I do specifically as an industrial psychologist, is I come in and I say, let's get the lay of the land. It's sometimes going to be hard, of course, depending on your personality, right? It might be harder for you to hear. You might not want to understand or accept certain things. But what I always tell people is, look, you're not paying me to tell you the things you want to hear. Everybody else in your life will do that. Nobody wants to challenge you. I will come in with zero alternative motive. I only want your success, because your success is my success as well. The more you grow and succeed, the more engagement I have with you, right? So I am inclined to get you to grow and understand who you are and let it have a positive impact on your business. It might be uncomfortable for some people in the beginning because no one has ever said things to them. And I want to be clear, I'm not coming in, with Thor's hammer crashing down and just tearing you apart. Not at all. In fact, that's why I use assessments, because I'm letting you know, don't just rely on my personal observations. Who am I, right? I'm sure I have my own biases, and very often if I wanted to rely on my perception, that might not be the reality. My whole approach is, let's look at you like everything else through an empirical lens. That automatically will bring your concerns or your barriers down, because you have already said this to me. You just never understood it in this context. So let's go through it. And if at times, of course, it might be difficult to hear, you know, someone doing the work that I do, you have to have a lot of emotional intelligence, right? You have to understand who it is that you're working with. So, of course, I'll meet people where they're at and I'll meet them in their needs. And of course, I will tailor every experience to different people. Um, I don't, I don't, I don't get turned off by more challenging people. In fact, I really enjoy that work because if it's too easy sometimes, it's too easy. It's not much of a challenge. It's really when people have this skepticism in the beginning, right? They ask themselves, what is this? Is this real? Oh, another assessment, right? And I say to them, look, as concerned as you are about assessment, I promise you, I am more concerned because I know on the back end in the industry what goes on. A lot of them are unregulated. It could be a great moneymaker, right? But these are the same tools that I've used in the corporate world. These are the same tools that organizations use for the largest companies in the world. There's something to it. I say, keep your skepticism. Don't blindly trust me. Keep that at the surface. And I guarantee that the more you challenge, the more we get to challenge each other, you will understand why this is important and what it does. And to the point where once you break down that the initial interactions, these entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders, one of them calls me his cheat code. He said to me once, he says like, Kevin, I kind of feel sometimes it's almost unethical because I'm at such an advantage over my competition. I'm hiring with data. I'm promoting with data. I'm dealing with my leadership and my employees with data. It works. Like, I don't understand how I've ever done it without it, is what he said to me, right? And that's the goal. The goal is just like any other challenge you have in your business, you also have people challenges, and many entrepreneurs, have never been trained or equipped to manage people or to lead people. And number two, to be quite frank, very often they shouldn't. A real entrepreneur or a founder or a solid leader in those regards, very often they have a different skill set. They're the ones that are driving revenue. They're the ones that are coming up with ways to increase profits, to be creative, to innovate. They don't want to spend their time dealing with people problems, right? And so I get to come in and I say to them, look, alleviate your people challenges to me. I'll help you, yourself and your people, and we'll become optimized together. You should go focus on growing and optimizing the business, right? And, another quick example, client once asked me, felt bad because I kind of laughed initially, but he said to me, he's like, Kevin, how do I get my people to be as invested as I am in my business? Right? And I kind of burst out laughing and I said to him, well, just give them your business, right? Like, it's funny and there's humor to it. And of course, it just shows and demonstrates the expectation sometimes that founders and leaders have, right? They're invested, they get it, they want it, but you have to understand what motivates others. How do you get other people to be as invested? And if you understand what it is that your people want and you understand how to cater to it, fantastic, right? You're then able to optimize and develop and grow your people so that ultimately your business grows. If you understand what they want, simply cater to it. Everybody thinks that it's money and it's finances, that's all they're looking for in their careers. It's absolutely false. It's not true. Now, of course, people are not going to go and work for free, right? They're at their job, and of course, they're doing it because they want to make money and they want to grow and they want to have increases. That does not mean that that is their core driver. If somebody is driven, for example, by recognition, not in an ego way, they just want to leave a legacy. They want to create an impact. They want to show up at work because they want to know that what they did today matters. If you as a business owner or as a leader caters to that recognition, something as simple as pulling the team together for 30 seconds and saying, hey, I just want to give a certain shout out to so-and-so for their contribution this week. It was incredible. I know that sounds fluffy. It's really not. You have empirical data that shows this individual is driven by recognition. Cater to the recognition. It doesn't have to cost you an exorbitant amount of money. And I promise you that if you do that, your people will then want to stay. Your people will be driven and invested to grow your business because they know this aligns with who they are, right? And that's the ultimate goal.
All right. But here's the thing. That last observation that you gave where, just give some appreciation to people. isn't it fair to say that pretty much everyone at work is driven by this praise from the higher ups, praise from the boss? I don't think there's anyone out there who wouldn't appreciate, a nice slap on the back and, hey, you're doing a great job. Why do they need to pay an outsider to give advice that may be intuitive and obvious?
So I love this question because this is the point. And the answer is absolutely not. It's not intuitive, and not everybody is driven by recognition. In fact, some people that score, it's actually a scale. So you can score from 0 to 100 in all of these scales. Some people are very low on recognition. Doesn't mean they're an introvert, by the way. Those are two separate pieces. But some people actually hate overt recognition. They don't like it. They don't enjoy it.
They hate being praised.
Yeah, because you know why? They may be driven by something called affiliation. Okay, so affiliation is being a part of something beyond just yourself. And what they want to do, what their goal is in life, is they want to just continue to work with others. They don't need individual recognition. And in fact, if you were to give them individual recognition, they might not like it. They might become unhappy because they're saying, well, don't look at me as an individual. No, I'm here as part of a team. I don't like this, right? And so that question is exactly the point, is what we all think is intuitive and obvious and so, guaranteed. That's our bias speaking out to others, right? I might be driven by recognition. Hence, I assume other people are driven by recognition. I will then, as a business owner or leader, act that way. But guess what? I haven't actually catered to what it is that people like. And so that's where a lot of the contention, a huge amount of the contention comes from this assumption that what I value, others value, right? And so when I will show a founder or a leader, any entrepreneur, what their values are, number one, they actually understand what it is that drives them. Then number two, I get to show them what their team and other people value, right? If they're aligned and they all value the same thing, it becomes much easier, right? Because what I want is what they want. Beautiful. But very often, which is the case, there's differences of values. And where the biggest challenges arise is when a founder or a leader tries to instill their values and acts that way within the organization and amongst the team. You know why a lot of people may end up quitting and leaving? Not because it was a bad leader, but it was simply because the leader didn't cater to what it is that they were valuing, what they were driven towards, right? And so this is exactly the point, is don't assume things or don't assume what other people want, right? And even though it might seem so obvious and so apparent, right? Like, who wouldn't want to be recognized for their contribution? The answer is a lot of people wouldn't, right? And even if they don't, there are things that are more important for them, right?
Right.
So that's exactly the point. Is just understand and you have empirical data. You actually have data that shows you what it is. Now you can understand. You know how many problems you can solve, especially from a culture perspective, right? And so that's the goal.
Right. Everyone's very much individual in what they want and what drives them at work. I guess I could agree with that. What advice would you give to young people starting out, people who are, just finishing university? What kind of business advice would you give to those people?
Okay, so I would give a general piece of advice because this has come up so many times that I can't even count anymore. Stop believing everything you see out there and every success story that you see, in every venue and avenue of social media where you have the 22-year-old life coach who's all of a sudden, talking about their client experiences. It's not true. It's very intimidating for people to see all of this. It's simply not true. And so the first thing I would say is stop believing everything you see and pursue the truth. If you see something that does not make sense and it's so hard to believe, it's probably because it's not true, right? And the success story is the people that are really out there pushing hard, building their businesses, trying to develop a career. They're not preaching about it. And so I always tell them the formula is as follows. The louder somebody talks about their success, the least successful they are. The quieter somebody is that doesn't talk about all of it, go chase them because they're probably successful, right? It's intimidating and it's scary, especially in today's day and age. There's so much out there that we don't know what's real, especially with AI coming in, which is amazing and also terrible depending how you use it.
Sure.
Just follow yourself. Like don't doubt yourself so much. Don't think that everybody else is super successful and you all of a sudden are this anomaly that's not. It's simply not true. Just continue to fight the fight and be honest. It has to be authentic.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, where can people follow your work and support what you're doing?
So I have never had social media in my life. I don't ever plan on having it. I am on LinkedIn as from a professional and business experience. And so reach out. I meet people all the time on LinkedIn. Reach out directly to me. I mean, my website is northmarktalent.io. You can connect, but really it's through LinkedIn is just the best way to connect because you get to see the real things that happen and it's a real place. Like I don't like the distraction. I don't need to go and present my life to the world. It's hard enough to live in the real world where you have so much responsibility and every single day is a new day and another challenge. I don't need to then go and put it out there because it's just like what's real and what's not. So Kevin at northmarktalent.io is an email, but really my presence is on LinkedIn. Like to me, it's real. I don't hire someone to manage my LinkedIn. I don't pay people to write my posts. I don't use AI to write my posts either. I know that's kind of an anomaly right now. I'd rather post less frequently and make it authentic than just create volume and be loud. So I follow my own advice. Don't be so loud. Hopefully I'll be more successful.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, so you're rare amongst so many people who are just, you know, leaning on AI. It's very authentic. Well, listen, Kevin, it's been a pleasure sitting down with you today. I wish you all the best and keep doing what you're doing. We need more of that. Lord knows there's so many businesses out there who are struggling with issues, and it's awesome. So thanks again, Kevin.
My pleasure. One day at a time.
One day at a time.